The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
This is the Anime Roundtable Canada, presented by Anime North. Check us out on our Linktree page for links to everything Anime Roundtable, from our old school email, blog, and podcast site to our streaming video and socials, animeroundtable.com. Well, here we go. Night number 2 as we wind it down from Anime North 2024. We're back in our usual perch here in a little corner of the Delta Hotel in the Halton room right beside the staff lounge. Strangely, though, maybe some of the voices you're going to hear in this recording in the background may not necessarily be those who are heading for something to eat. They may actually be caring to watch this.
I'm guessing there's another difference compared to last night as well.
Yeah, we actually have a few, about half a dozen people who are listening in. So this doesn't happen often. I'm going to tell you that now. We usually don't have an audience to listen to any parts of the taping. So
we haven't had 10 people since Neil and Adam were regularly recording with you.
Yes, yeah. Well, Neil, for reference, he's out of town right now. I did text him earlier this week. He's out of town visiting his mom. Well, let's preface that. How many did you say? 10 people?
Yeah, we have 10 people. We have 10 people in the audience.
Yes, and almost half of them.
Yeah, well, actually, wait, no.
And almost half of
10.
them
Okay, I did count
are
correctly.
actually regular Congoers and not friends. They're just friends we're going to introduce ourselves to right now. Here we go. Once around the table, Mike Nicolas, James Austin, Amy Lynn Greig, Kevin Ng, all the regulars that we would do. And quick shout out to Mohammed Shamarki. He was supposed to have been in last night. He didn't make it. As much as we joke about it, he did get in contact with us earlier today, and something did come up. We'll wish him well. And we'll talk with him in a little bit, hopefully very soon, because I get the feeling by that point, he still would have been the only one amongst the 5 of us who have seen the live-action City Hunter movie. So
in full, yeah.
In full. Well, I got through the first 5 minutes. Now I want to see the remaining 130.
So I clicked into a random scene in the middle, and they were at like a cosplay convention or something, of all things.
Well, we're keeping in theme, aren't we?
My experience with City Hunter is Get Wild was one of the songs on a random CD I bought in Japan, like just a remix of it, and then I saw the trailer for the movie at Anime Hell last night.
Gonna give it a watch, if you're able to?
Possibly. It was a really good trailer.
I watched more Angel Heart than City Hunter, actually.
You know what? I wish I could talk a little more. It's just about my experiences watching any sort of City Hunter. Because I'll admit mine is a little limited. I want to wait to talk at length about it before to really flesh out those thoughts.
It looks good.
It does look good.
No, it looks kind of true to the original, and I'm sure the creator was involved. And the creator is an interesting fellow in himself, because remember, I think it was Raijin Comics or whatever, he came over and helped get that off the ground, remember? In the early odds and stuff like that, and tried to bring City Hunter over here and stuff like that, which was an interesting thing. And it was kind of similar to the censorship and stuff, and saying, we need a bikini, or we need something here, and he's like, okay, draws it right on there, and away they go.
Because honestly, is kind of interesting. Because most people know North American adaptations of anime and manga are usually bad, and we only have 3 objectively good examples of that. But with Japanese adaptations of anime and manga, it can be 50-50, so it's not such a low chance, and City Hunter was pretty good. from what I saw.
So let's hopefully by next time we're on, and hopefully I'll define next time as before July 1st.
I was going to say, the real question is it as good as the French version of City Hunter and stuff like that? Because the French love their City Hunter.
Isn't the French one cheesy as shit, though?
Probably.
The hell with that. I'm thinking Jackie Chan.
Oh, that one, yeah. But people don't. Most people don't know that.
Don't know. But
And remember, wasn't
I
there
even
a
forgot
Jackie
that.
Chan version of Golgo, I believe, as well?
No.
Jackie Chan version
No,
of Golgo?
I would want to see that. I would so be up for that. No, it was Sonny Chiba.
Oh,
Sonny
Sonny
Chiba
Chiba, yes,
years
I
ago.
do.
No,
Right, my
because
brain
Jackie be
went
too
wrong.
goofy.
Yeah, I know. Norm's going to talk about this one a bit later, I think.
We have seen this, we have shown this one in Green years back.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. We got to talk about this a bit later. Oh,
Oh, yeah, that one. Says,
okay.
my mind.
Yeah, we will talk. We should talk about all that stuff a bit later on.
I
Okay.
just can't picture Jackie being that serious, but I know he's done serious films like before he got popular in the West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe even since. There's been one or two since in English. Do we want to talk your side of the Nomi, or do you want to just get to, or should we save that for our Anime North post-mortem next
I can try and do that quick.
Okay, in 5 minutes or less, your thoughts on your experience at the Nomi.
Okay, let's see. I actually got there early for once, because my ADHD ass, so I have ADHD, and that's, I have the diagnosis, and usually when I sell at Nomi, I get there at 6:30, and it opens at 7. And sometimes I forget my bag in the car, and I'm in the back of the fucking parking lot, because that's how busy it is. But this time I actually got there at about 5:30, because my friend drove me there and was pushing me to get there early.
Well, so this wasn't of your own.
Oh, no.
This wasn't because of you that you were on time.
No, not really. And then, but no, actually, to be honest, most of my stuff was already packed from Nerd Market last month anyway. So I didn't have to do a lot of packing. But the thing was that because everyone comes at around 5, you were already in there early. I didn't get to start packing till after 6. To set up until after 6.
So it was still a pretty intense hour.
It was still intense in that I had to, and you saw me kind of being fidgety and shit. I had to go pick up my holds.
I was done, yes, yeah.
I had to go pick up my holds, and then I got halfway through them when the doors opened. So I didn't get back to my booth for good until 7:45.
Hey, you still had the remaining 3 hours and 15 minutes.
And the only regret I have from doing that is that someone could have bought all of my My Hero Academia set, apparently.
Aw.
Because
They're
not a lot of people are willing to pay a lot for that manga right now.
I will, to paraphrase the Toronto Maple Leafs, there's always next year.
We'll see about that.
Well, we'll talk more about that, I think, as
I'm a jaded Leafs fan, yeah.
No, not the Leafs. We'll talk more about the Nomi maybe in a coming.
But
weeks.
I did very well.
Yeah.
I brought in 5 boxes. I filled it back up actually with stuff I bought, but when I took out the stuff that I sold, I actually cleared out 2 boxes of the 5. So I'll consider that a win.
All right.
Because I found some really good stuff, actually.
By the way, anyone who's here in the audience, can somebody give a business card to anybody who's seeing this for the first time? But anyway.
I found Velvet Kiss, Mike.
I know you've been looking for that.
It's so hard. No, that volume 4 of Velvet Kiss is like a $400 book on its own.
And how much did you get it for?
Got all of it for $20.
So you're saying some people don't always know the prices? I saw that today.
So in other words, this is the part I should edit out.
No, I'm going to read it for myself. I haven't read that series. I haven't read it in years.
I was going to say, did you find the volumes of Red River and stuff like that before it goes back into print, and then you can become live the best life?
I already sold that set at its peak price anyway. It's fine.
Oh.
I have my personal set that I want to keep because the Viz Omnibus books are usually not that good quality. When it's the regular release 3-in-1s they do now, like the Naruto 3-in-1s, Red River is gonna be in that same type of format. So the quality is gonna be kind of shoddy, I think. It's not like the nice JoJo omnibus hardcovers. Or it's not going to be like the Junji Ito hardcovers. So I'm okay with keeping my personal set for Red River.
I don't know what else to add, really.
Yeah, it's a great series.
Okay. I guess now that we're done with day 1, day 2 observations. Who wants to go first? What did you any takeaways you had from the second day?
Parking sucks. Parking's
That was
so
okay.
bad.
We talked. That was a talking point when we were here last year. I mean, parallel parking all the way from the Dixon entrance was a thing.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that last year.
I do. And I still saw it from a distance.
I take your word for that. Because the last 2 years, when I parked, I hit gravel.
Which is to say that back part in
is
front of
not paved. And then
North
2
building.
years ago, I didn't even know the back part of the North building thing existed because I never needed to go there. That's how bad it was. But now, like, there's so much traffic now. Like, it feels worse. It's probably the same, but it feels worse than before.
Yeah, it's. Well, as I said, it's becoming more and more a thing. The way parking is, around the area. I mean, I still am impressed. Impressed, I guess that's a word I'll use, just by the amount of lineups I see in each of the driveways and exits. It's just this is one of those things that just happen, and with the increased popularity of the convention. Mm-hmm. And we are, and maybe and Norm's here. We'll talk with him a bit later. It's just this is becoming, just one of those things that'll come with it.
It's interesting to seeing because you have the North and the South, and people are going back and forth between the buildings now. So it's interesting seeing. It's like, okay, we gotta get across, but the cars got to get back and forth even throughout the day and stuff like that.
That's a new element to all this hubbub now. Is that now that North building is now fully usable, so far as I'm aware. They're using all of it now.
Yep. Basically.
Yes, exactly as you said, James.
I actually went today to look at and stuff like that because usually I'd go to the Sheraton, check out the gaming and stuff like that. But I went to the North building and it feels like they still have room to grow for the gaming part and stuff like that. But it looks like they have a lot of space. I could walk around and enjoy everything. Sometimes they were compartmentalized in the Sheraton, like they'd be in different rooms. Some of them would be in the hallway, but they're all nice together now and stuff like that. And some of them are in the Delta, but I think it's great. Everyone found a space, and I feel like some of them do have a little more room. And then even the Artist Alley feels, as they said, even bigger. They have their own kind of section, so to speak, just like the regular dealer's room and stuff like that. And then you have the others still have enough space on the other section, and that's in the South building. And then we still have the space at the front of the South building for rooms for panels, for the major panels. And then the North building still has the panels for gaming and cosplay. It was interesting for that because I guess it's a big room, so they kind of compartmentalize and make those rooms and stuff like that. But they were nice to go in and out of.
This was the first year this is the first year I've been to North Building since the pandemic happened because I never needed to go to North Building because I don't go see Masquerade anymore, and that was
the opening and closing. There's Anime Hell and the other ones that they have at the bar, and that's still there.
Anime Hell is always during Nominoichi nowadays. It's no longer on Saturdays, and it hasn't been on Saturdays for more than 10 years now. So I just never need to go.
And then the other thing I did check on the North Building because I was curious, even though I don't go that way and stuff like that. I looked at the registration and stuff like that, and it looked like they're really prepared and stuff like that. It isn't like it used to be in the South. It looks like, they have enough space to get everyone in and out. They got, it looks like it's primed and ready and stuff like that and future-proofed. You know what I mean? For the best that it can be and stuff like that.
I do think moving it to North was a great idea because then you don't have as much congestion for all that in the South building because most of the events are still in South. So yeah, it
And you can get
relieves the
people-
space a little bit.
And you can get people in and out, I think,
Yeah.
better in the South Building, which is great and stuff like
But-
that. It's just a matter, as you said, everyone has to get used to, okay, we got to go to the North Building first, get our tickets, and then away we go and stuff like that,
I'll
right?
start short of saying the double-edged sword with doing that is that people will now know about the Dixon Road entrance.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a moot point because people really learned about the Dixon Road entrance last year, and
yeah.
that was a big part of the story. In
and
terms of the
there's
parking.
the other reason why I didn't want people to know, but I'm not going to go into that.
Anyway,
It's public roads, you guys know. There's no secrets.
there's no
comment. I'm not gonna-
It's not
I'm not
really
gonna talk about it.
Amy, James, who wants to go next?
I feel that with the changes to the artist alleys, so the like that entire arts market area, way better than last year. Last year, speaking of traffic, the lanes were so thin that it was kind of, it was a disaster at times. I was there for the first time in a while at like peak time, so like middle of the day Saturday, and it was still chaotic and busy, but it did feel that like there was enough room for people to go down the middle if they needed to, squeeze in to look at the different areas. I'm still fairly mixed, so they've sort of seem to have reintegrated Crafters Corner and the more 2D focused artists, which is good because a lot of artists do both, so it's not forcing them to choose, but it does mean that like it's a little bit more difficult to navigate, and some artists are also in the like the professional, like the industry area, so there is some spillover, which is a little bit confusing. So they're sort of adjacent to where like the claw machines and some other things are as well. But again, the additional, like I don't know how many more feet of space, like it might only be like 2 feet extra space, but it was noticeable compared to last year, which was great. The north and south building is interesting. So in general, I heard you talking about this this morning, but you recorded last night. The signage. So the communication game really seems to be up this year at Anime North. Like at least the main signs of like there are panels here, there is this here, and the communication from the volunteers. My heart goes out to them at the entrance to the panel room for the south building, just repeating there is no entrance to the vendors hall here. It's only panels and dolls. Just repeated every 10 seconds. Like they deserve medals for having to repeat that.
Any programming that you want to at least quickly mention?
Yeah, I saw 3 very good panels today. The first one was like engineering and anime. It was pretty mecha focused. They had a little bit at the end which dealt with like space travel, which I think I wish there was more of. And I think they do too. I think this is the second year that they've run this panel, and I can only see it getting better. And I do hope that they diversify, because engineering is more than just mecha. It was very entertaining. They did their best with Evangelion, and they just gave up on Darling in the Franxx. I haven't seen that, but they basically just said there's no engineering here, and they moved on, which was very funny. And I haven't seen it, but it went over well with the crowd.
There's only one reason to see that show.
Well, they did mention something about coupling and piloting, but they also did. It was really cool. They talked about how the transport for the EVA's perfectly feasible, like with our current physics. In fact, they don't even need to be that big. The current biggest Russian airplane could carry an like EVA unit no problem. The second,
Those are kind of occupied at the moment, though.
Yeah. They were at Pearson apparently for a while.
Yes. Well, I think it's still there actually.
The second panel, I saw the second iteration of the Anime X Law panel, which was very popular. The room filled up before the panel was set to start. I know that had a really small room one of the smaller rooms upstairs
One of
last
those.
year,
Yeah.
and it was completely full. So it had a bit of a bigger room this year. It was in the South Building. I forget the name. It starts with a W, I think.
Oh, South Building this time.
Sorry?
Waxman.
Waxman, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
Al
yeah,
Waxman.
it's they still filled it up, but it was,
Wow.
I think, at overcapacity, I think.
Wow.
People out the door, like, outside trying to come in. So I think it's great to see sort of these specialty panels that are a little bit more like an entertaining lecture, sort of really taking hold. 2 years ago, Anime Strongest Trees, still one of the best panels I've ever been to.
Strongest tree?
Trees, yes, trees.
Okay.
So, like,
Just making sure.
Yggdrasil,
Heard that properly, yeah.
Kamui Woods from My Hero Academia, like all the. I think one of the strongest trees was a random tree in Sonic X because the force to like withstand, to not break after Sonic, who is a certain amount of speed, jumps off and on, would have to be a certain amount. It was a fantastic panel. They had giant props.
Kind of a physics panel,
yeah,
I
like
guess.
so it's sort of combining this education with humor, like it's really good, and Anime X Law does that really well. We had custody and marriage law for Spy X Family again, so repeat of last year.
Wow.
There was contract law, so last year the case study was Madoka. This year is Jujutsu Kaisen. So two different forms of contract, but still really interesting. I haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen, but it was only spoilers up to episode 6, and they did a good job explaining the premise as much as needed. Tax law with Yu-Gi-Oh, which was very interesting. Joey's winnings, how that would work under an Ontario tax system, because they convert everything to Ontario law. And then a little one on, I think, blackjack, so medical practices. And apparently the fines for practicing law without, or practicing medicine without a license, are really small. The first offense is only up to $25,000, and it's just a fine. There's no other punishment. So the one panelist who is a doctor and not a lawyer was very disturbed researching this. So that was great. And then immediately after that, I dashed across the way to the queer and trans representation in anime. Panel, excellent panelists, really great balance between their own expertise and audience engagement, which is a really hard balance to strike.
It is, actually.
With panels. So that was, it was remarkable to see. Great examples. And we talked a lot about the sort of changes in Japan over the last 20 years or so. So the fact that, of course, the new Paper Mario came up with the character who
Vivian.
with Vivian being, very heavily implied to be trans in the original Japanese version, and explicitly, I think, in the Italian or Spanish version. And then that was completely cut from the original North American GameCube version. And very recently, yesterday, the remake came out, and they have made it much more explicit in the English dialogue, and even the Japanese dialogue cut out a lot of the more transphobic things. Like, it's still part of Vivian's story, so like it's still there, but it's a little bit, I guess, more sensitive, even in the Japanese version. I brought up Bridget as well on the mic there. And the semi-infamous femboy erasure that happened with Bridget recently with Guilty Gear.
Okay, it was Guilty Gear Bridget. Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah. Guilty Gear Bridget. So, but yeah, we talked about Host Club, I think Black Butler, Soul Eater. So lots of great discussions there. Again, it eventually filled up that room. That was one of, I think, Burton, one of the larger rooms panel rooms in TCC South. So yeah, I chose well with the panels this year. It doesn't always happen. There's not always great ones.
Well,
they're relevant. That's the thing. Anime North. I think Fred Schott, when we talked with him back in 2019, one thing he would say is, "You are going to get an educated lesson here of some sort." with what you choose, regardless.
Yeah, definitely
just
a lot of great panels and stuff like that. And if you want a really great fan-run convention with great panels, yeah, Anime North is the top of the list, and you'll come away with something. And even the popular panels, we have been doing better, because normally, remember, you'd be in the Delta and stuff like that. But as Amy said, it's like some of them get really full and popular, but now they have that ability to go to TCC, and it's not just the industry and the guest panels. They're using it for some of those more popular panels and stuff like that for more people to see, and they're still getting the people in, which is great to see. You know what I mean?
And the quality increasing also makes things better for everyone, because you still have to line up for some of these popular panels, but it's you're maybe lining up a half an hour now instead of sometimes an hour a few years ago. I think right before and right after the lockdowns, if there was a popular panel of a popular series, you would have to line up an hour before. So that's another panel or a big chunk of time at the convention you had to sacrifice. And now it's not that much. Like, you can get in lining up 20 minutes in advance. You might not have the best seats, but it's not like necessary anymore, which is really great. And even with the queer and trans panel, I was able to dash from the Anime X Law and get a pretty good seat as well. So.
And some of the ones I know, I was in the back, and some of them obviously weren't full, but I still felt I was able to hear the panel and participate and stuff like that. And I'm sure hopefully it was the same even when it was a fuller panel, you know what I mean, with everyone in the seat.
The one thing I will wish that happens, and I think this happened last year, I was at the panel you were at, the 2000s bubble panel.
Yeah, I saw.
And I sure did hear the panel next door, and it kind of seemed almost as or more interesting sometimes, so that was frustrating. But something with the way the speakers were projecting, despite the panel being about the how the Pokemon first movie was the catalyst to the entire bubble bursting. I also learned a lot about these the scientific inaccuracies of Dr. Stone's petrification and all these other medical issues. So I got a dual experience, but not really one that was intended.
Yeah, no, the Plaza one, I know those are the Plaza rooms and stuff like that, and they kind of separate them out with dividers. So as they say, you got to work with what you have. But it was interesting, that one for the bubble in anime that I saw yesterday. It was interesting, though. I think I heard it virtually before, but it was still a good one from Samantha Ferreira. So.
Okay, James.
And then I think
guess it's your turn.
the one, I did see a few things. I walked around the compound, as I said, for North and South TCC to see everything. Definitely more space to walk around for the gaming section, stuff like that. Still a lot to see and do. I did see some panels. I saw, the one I remember offhand is Mike Toole and Anime Outsiders, which was an interesting panel in regards to different animators, some of them trained, some of them not, basically doing their own thing, and a lot of them doing short film animation, stuff like that. Some of them, like a lot of our Canadian talent, get nominated for Oscars in the short animation area and stuff like that. So
I actually wanted to see that panel, but I opted to go to the Kinema Citrus panel instead.
Yeah, and well, they talked about Frogman 2 and a few of the others, and as Mike said, a lot of the ones he said, yeah, I wish there was more diversity, because pretty much all of them were men. And the thing with that is a lot of the female and other representation, they were saying, went into more of the general animation area in Japan and stuff like that. And they never like broke out on their own. And a lot of these other guys just kind of broke out on their own. And some of them, it took a long time just to get some of this work out the door and stuff like that. I think the one fella that he just works on animation and actually animates cells and stuff like that, and we saw it in motion, was incredible. He was doing, I think they said like a cell a day, and that's what we're talking about, animation. And so he did over the course of 365 days, and like this is 9 minutes, and it's like, wow, that's what he created all by himself. So these were definitely people like not working with anyone, and incredible to witness.
Kind of reminds me of Makoto Shinkai back in the day.
Yeah, no, I know. Like some of them, like there was one actually that they did everything, including the voices, because they only had one voiced role for like a 5-minute piece and stuff like that. But some of them, yeah, usually they do everything up to a point. And Makoto Shinkai definitely was like that. But the crazy thing about that, when you think about it, is he still does a lot of work, even on his own films still, even though he has a lot more help, obviously, now is doing commercial work and stuff like that. It's still, some of what he does still isn't quite the norm as what you see some of the other ones doing. But there's still like a lot of great panels in both the Delta and the TCC, and hopefully it continues and stuff like that, because each year you never know which panel is going to jump out and you go, and it just, as Mike said, it lights the curiosity, right? And you like take away something, and sometimes it's the lecture type panels and stuff like that. There's still some World War II panels I know that were happening this year, and there's other ones, like it's not just about anime or manga or Japanese culture. It's about many things.
That's your takeaway? That was your takeaways?
Yeah, mostly
Okay.
my takeaway.
Mine is always how do I put this? A degree of, you understand, but maybe you're still a little regretful or maybe even frustrated. Because like Anime North, there's so much going on. You cannot possibly see it all. So there are things I wanted to see that ultimately had a habit of conflicting with each other. Mm-hmm. That all said, and there's so much going on, so much you want to do. When it came down to it, I ended up with a friend seeing at least 3 things. And I'm not totally sure that was enough, but it was still, quite a bit across the board today. So we started here in the Halton room. There was a presentation by the Japanese consulate encouraging traveling to Japan and checking out settings and places in relation to anime and your fandom.
Oh, they don't have to worry.
But
Everyone's going to Japan right now.
But
as we know at the end.
they wanted to be very specific about it, and it was actually it was charming and informative. I'm not saying eye-opening, because you knew. I mean, anybody who watches enough, which is probably most of all of the dozen or so people who listen to this show, they watch enough to know there's plenty of real places. And this kind of got specific. And in turn, they kind of also told how those towns and places and cities honor their notoriety too. They actually respect their notoriety in that sense. Although there are maybe there's always that give and take. Sometimes, especially with many the crowds really starting to form. I mean, there was reports this week that they are trying to tone down the amount of hikers on Mount Fuji now.
I think they set up a billboard in one small town. Like they just set up a tarp to block the view.
I heard
this
about
one
that.
too.
I was going to bring that up. Like it was a komboni. It was a convenience store. And it had this perfect view, I guess, of Mount Fuji. I guess it looked like Mount Fuji was on the convenience store or something like that. It was like a viral picture. And basically, because of how Instagram and all the things like TikTok and things like that, it's like, oh, that's incredible. So all of them are trying to get this perfect picture, and that is just ticked off this town. And so they've tried to embrace it, but now they've taken the other thing, and as you said, this black tarp just blocking out Mount Fuji and stuff like that. And they said, this is how we're going to solve the problem. And people said there were other ways you could have went about this instead of putting an ugly tarp over a convenience store just to say we've solved the problem.
I also will say I volunteered essentially across the street from the school that Lucky Star is based on, and there were no signs. So
maybe some things are changing.
Not every place is celebrated.
But you were there so long ago, so...
Well, this was 2017.
Okay. So maybe, yeah. So there's some of that.
But again, like I think there's another panel similar to that theme tomorrow morning. And that, I mean, if you're going to Japan for the first time, a lot of people want to do Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, maybe Hakone if you're fancy. But like I really would recommend, going to other places, other prefectures.
Yeah, and that's what that's part of it too.
Yeah, and seeing the places where your favorite anime are from and things like that.
There's definitely a lot of YouTubers out there when you look at it. And I know when you look at it, they have some great ideas of there's more to Japan than the main spots. And it's great to see those spots too, even if it's virtually and stuff like that. But I know the hardest one now is Kyoto is kind of becoming like Venice. So it's like you got to beware, right?
Mm-hmm. So there's that. And second, after lunch, we did do some Seiyu stalking. So we did do the Q&A, or I think they termed it a tribute to Shimizu Mari and Mori Katsuji, the two veteran Japanese Seiyu who came out. And admittedly, it felt like a relatively short panel.
Short but sweet.
It was. I
was there too.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, Kevin saw the back end of it. But it was so... It was charming, and they know their notoriety. And both of them introduced themselves to the audience in character. So from Astro Boy from Gotcha Man, in the case of Mori.
He wore a really sick Gotcha Man bomber jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was decked out in Speed Racer gear, actually, too. So they're asked just some basic questions. One thing I have to also mention, a quick shout out to their moderator, the person who hosted them, because she was probably the most colorful of those at the table. Encouraged people to come and ask questions, but she asked questions of us too.
I have experience working with that moderator in the past when I was staff. Yep, she's been like that since day one.
Mm-hmm. How much do you want me to go through some of what I said here? Oh, I noted a bunch of things about what they said.
I'd say note a couple of memorable stuff, if anything.
Well, I wrote down basic advice to people in today's industry. And Shimizu just noted be more than just a good voice. But Mori was a little bit, I wrote down, I thought was a little bit more detailed. One, he's forgotten how many roles he's had, but he just always said, have a passion for it. And that's what he felt had got him through, made him so successful. Because he started off as just as a child actor on NHK shows, and only got into voice acting because he was a fan and looked for people associated with anime. So he talked, for quite a few minutes about playing Garma in the original in Gundam, and he didn't really know he was about to get killed off. So he really was heartbroken, probably as much as fans were when at that moment happened. And he still sounds a bit resentful about it to this day, or at least he played along with it.
It's funny because that's how I know him, because I've watched some of the old Gundam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. The one note I wrote was Mori felt okay. He also felt that in terms of anime's worldwide appeal, yeah, the stories are one thing, but he also felt that music and soundtracks were a big help. He always felt that the way he put it, music is universal and has no boundaries, and soundtracks to anime probably they really do know how to tug sometimes and help carry their scene. So I guess I can see him on that point. Shimizu was asked about Osamu Tezuka. And what I got from her answer was she was so impressed with how detailed he was and how good his memory was. And that's become well documented in the decades since he's passed away. He would remember exactly, like, every single detail of every drawing he ever made, exactly where they were in every single volume, and just work from that point. He would, like, there are stories about, when he asked somebody to make a background, but they didn't know the reference point, what background he was asking about. And he said, okay, look in this past volume, this page, look in this corner. And he would walk his assistants through. But she noted his that attention to detail. On playing Astro Boy, she called that probably a really as big an honor as you can see. because in the way she put it, she was just honored to finally give Astro his soul when she was chosen to be his voice. So there was something there. And the last thing I wrote down was on changes in the industry. Mori just acknowledged that there's just a lot of changes, and Shimizu just acknowledged it, but also noted that actors had become more specialized specifically in getting into voice acting, or trained specifically for voice acting. While she respected it, she kind of thought that there was some waning in terms of uniqueness in a lot of new voice actors, because that specific training was too streamlined, and that it wouldn't give actors and actresses like other types of experiences.
I could believe that.
That's the same kind of sentiment a lot of American voice actors have given with similar questions. Like a lot of them, I'm pretty sure Rob Paulson has said this, and Barbara Goodson and others have talked about how so much of being a good voice actor is being a good actor. And a lot of people, fall in love with doing a funny voice or doing like a specialty voice, but it's those who can understand acting principles and really embrace them and figure out physicality, who will sort of go on and sort of, I guess, put the soul into things.
Yeah, but and it must be noted, we already mentioned Mori was a child actor on NHK television programming. She was Shimizu did theater. So yeah, they have those varied experiences, and I guess that goes for something. So those were my sketched notes. Now that I can actually read my own writing. Third thing we were able to do today was you saw the Mad Kid concert?
I did. I saw parts of it.
Yeah, I saw like the first half hour of it. How long was it? Because it started fashionably late. Of course.
So I found out that some friends I didn't expect would be here were here. So I took them around the con because it was their first time here.
Really?
Yeah. So we walked around south, we walked around north. So that was why I finally saw North Building for the first time since the pandemic. And then we checked out the concert. So I was late to the concert as well. And then I got too hungry and they wanted to eat, so I actually went to go eat with them. So I left maybe at the halfway point, actually.
Okay. Well, I left about half an hour in myself because I had to come here. Mm-hmm. Man, what's Mad Kid's most well-known song? It's
the Shield Hero ones.
Yeah, the Shield Hero ones. They did Saskia and Peeps was the most recent one in January and stuff like that, and I think they probably played that. I could hear them roaring through the thing because I was going through the side and stuff like that beside, and you could hear the concert going. So it definitely sounded like it was pumping. Was there quite a few people?
I'd say it was about half full, but then it's usually pretty cramped in the front anyway because people want to be by the stage.
But you never know. That's good because you can have some people come in and out, right, and enjoy the atmosphere. So I thought
they engaged the audience pretty well. I didn't know they were like a boy band though.
I thought you knew. I think how many? It's like a few of them are rappers, and then a few of them are like straight up singers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's a different mix. Yep. Okay. So two singers, two rappers.
I guess I should have known by the poster outside, but I saw the performance. I was like, oh, okay, it's they're more of an idol group.
a mix of some.
I don't
stuff,
say that with any I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just the whole sing and dance act.
But yeah, no, you could see it, too, of how they photograph them and stuff like that and market them. But yeah, it's an interesting mix.
And they were ready with the merch too. The CDs and some of that stuff was there.
You're always about that.
No, but you know what sucked? When I went to Anime Ottawa, because I went to go see Angela. If anyone remembers Angela, she was here. No, she was here in Toronto like 20 years ago, but at the competition in downtown.
Well, they were at Fan Expo, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in Ottawa.
And I think the merch got caught in customs. So then...
Oh, so it's the clearance thing.
That's why because I was banking on buying a CD there to get signed, and that didn't happen.
I see somebody in the audience. It's actually the head of the karaoke show here at AN. What came to mind?
I live in Ottawa there. I was at Anime Ottawa.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw Angela. It's
Saw-
Day, by the way. It's actually the name of the band.
Yep.
And yeah, for some bizarre reason, they did have like a couple of T-shirts and acrylic standees, but
So
no CDs.
just a little bit, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that a Japanese artist concert is the only place to buy a CD in North America
we've had
at this point.
Yeah, we've had some of this conversation already, right? Mm-hmm. So, and my understanding is the CD's sold out.
I know
Well,
you
they
can
have the
find
last one.
I know you can find HMVs and Toys R Us's now, but I think it's just vinyls and manga.
There was one place in P Mall that would actually have real Japanese albums. Like, they were not bootlegs. Maybe some of the plushies were bootleg, but like, you could order Japanese CDs through them. They just didn't have everything, but... And it's ironic because obviously almost any other place that sold physical media in that mall is a bootleg shop, but they're like the one place I remembered. And now it's funny because you can find more places that sell K-pop items now than Japanese music, I find.
Yeah, that's sort of how the market has gone.
And I imagine J-Town, like, I imagine the store in J-Town will have it too, to be honest. I'd imagine so.
Maybe, who knows?
Oh, they don't carry CDs, eh? Manga I do know, yes, because I have bought some manga there in the past.
Anyway.
But I know they were doing signings for Mad Kid, and they're doing a meet and greet tomorrow, so probably that's why everyone wanted to get their merch, right?
Well, it's not surprising that it's sold out because that's the best time to sell your merch is during and after the concert because then they already experienced it.
While the iron's still hot.
The other thing I learned here, too, is... I thought it was Suncoast that they were going under for Toys R Us for the media and stuff like that. So I didn't realize HMV was back, as they said. I guess the problem was they couldn't just rebrand all those stores.
I think it's kind of like Zellers in the Bay. So it's, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Well, the funny
there's an HMV.
The funny thing is that the guy that Dudai goes takes these old stores and just makes it a version of what it used to be and stuff like that. And it was funny that he went back years ago and bought HMV from the British owners and stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting to see how that worked out. But anyway,
yeah, a quick lesson on Canadian retailing here. But those were my three things the major things that we were able to do today. And we have one more day. Okay.
I just want to say one more thing.
Sure. And then maybe we'll get to a little bit of what we wanted to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah. So I went to see the Kinema Citrus panel too.
Okay, so quick, just
because other things you guys have been to as well, but I'll admit I haven't watched a lot of their stuff, so it wasn't really like it was good in that like they showed a lot of like sketches and like there was a segment where they showed like pictures that they took from a reference trip. And you know, in that sense, I was like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff." And they showed some trailers for like new works that they have in the works too. It was decently full. It wasn't that full in the beginning, but it kind of filled up over the course of the panel, which is good.
So that was an interesting one too, because it was the background artists and stuff like that. And the
Yeah.
other thing was they were at Anime. I think they're the same ones that were at Anime Central last weekend, because they had 2 new announcements for 2 of their newer series, and
Yep.
they had that last week at Anime Central. So those were, I think, the trailers they showed before,
Yeah.
I believe. But still, some great stuff to see because they do have beautiful work they do from the various anime they work on. And the new ones they're working on are kind of a little different than, say, Made in the Abyss and some of the other stuff they have done.
Also we had several bouts of rock, paper, scissors for merch too.
Well, that's usually what happens at the end, right?
Did you manage? No.
I want a keychain.
Hey, good for you.
One of my other friends won a keychain too.
Good for your friend. Well, at least we tried to make as much of it as possible. And you notice we didn't talk about VTubers yet.
Yeah.
Yet. Next time.
We'll see.
Okay, cool.
Supposedly they said Doki Bird was very popular yesterday.
Well, yeah, that goes.
We were in the Dan Kim and Mitsu panel. He's like, now why are you guys all here instead of with Doki Bird? And I think one of the fellas said, I don't understand what Doki Bird is.
So I can confirm that she was indeed on the grounds on Friday. A friend of a friend who has a booth at Artist Alley did make. She made one Doki Bird item and she showed up and bought it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
So
She has a selfie for proof too that she was there. And so yeah, my suspicions were correct because I know I said in the past episode that back when she was Selene Totsky, like she was doing this too. Like whenever she went to cons, she would always buy merch of herself from the various artists on whatever Artist Alley she was at. So it's cool to see that she's still doing that.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I was just knowing that she was on the compound. Yeah.
Makes me wonder if Mint's on the compound too, actually. Because I think, if I remember correctly, she's kind of involved in the rave outside, actually.
I'm sure we'll find out. Well, maybe there'll be some photo evidence sooner or later. Okay.
Oh.
One last thing.
I made it to my virtual meet and greet that I wanted to do for the VTubers that I watch, and I'm very thankful that their session ran 2 hours rather than 1 hour like the others, because I couldn't get in for the first hour because of the parking situation. But it was really cool to interact with them like one-on-one, because like, you know, I interact in the chats every so often. Like I've been slowly more involved in like their community, and like you start recognizing the same names in chat and people kind of say hi to each other. So yeah, it was really weird. I didn't expect to like be in the middle of the vendors hall like with a mic hooked up and I just talk to them. That's the wonders of the internet.
Well, that's what I said with some of those things, and especially Anime Expo and some of the other ones, where they're having these one-on-one meet and greets through technology, and they're even doing things with signings where they're like sitting down, like who knows how many miles away or kilometers away, and giving you a signature and talking to you, right? It's like a wild world sometimes, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Technology. I should ask for a visual.
It was cool because like some of them have been going through some tough times because of certain circumstances that have happened to them. So if we don't talk about it formally, I might just dish that out as a final insult.
Well, I mean, my takeaway just hearing all these VTuber stories, and maybe getting just into the bit of the news, the Macross Plus Blu-ray was announced by all that anime.
When did they announce it?
Or at least Justin Savickas has hinted at it.
Because they have North American and European. So are they going to do the theatrical first and then?
I didn't know the details. He just said it's
coming. I
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. But my point was, you know how I always joked, when is the Sharon Apple thing going to happen? Since I was
so now the race is who's going to get the 4K on first, them with Macross Plus or Anime Ego and Robert for the second movie?
Who knows?
The problem is it will happen and everyone will love it, and then 2 years later she'll just be on a big LCD screen.
Well, the thing is, we'll have to go to Vancouver first to find that out, right?
Like the Miku concert for her was still pretty good because my friends went to that. I didn't.
Let's save that for in brief in a few minutes. But my point was maybe this maybe Sharon Apple is already happening in other forms. So when you talk about VTubers, but yes, we'll go to the virtual idols a bit later. Okay. I did have another homework assignment for everybody, but before the weekend, and Matt Alt, our old friend of the show, did one of his newsletters for Pure Invention. He talked about his concerns of being a translator, about where translating is going.
And talked about
we're going to
numerous
talk about
times,
just for a couple minutes, but maybe or at least set up a longer discussion a bit in the future. It was, but I asked him, well, do you mind if we talk about this on your show? And he said, well, anything in my newsletter I intend to be discussed anyway. So unfortunately, he knew I was thinking about it, so I guess I have to follow through. Politics, AI, and the last mile problem of getting Japanese content to audiences abroad. That was the subtitle for his little article. And yeah, he wanted to talk a little bit about the further scorn sometimes being heaped on translators these days, whether it's for bad translations or being too woke. And he does acknowledge those in the issues going at translators these days, or people wanting to be literal, but without context. And why we got there. But
and we have talked about before and stuff like that. And I think the other thing he mentions, and he talks about his experience of over, I want to say, 25 years or so, since the late 90s, and about his experience, growing up in the NES and the translations we had back then saying, you know what, we can do better and stuff like that. And it was interesting thinking that they're part of a team. Remember, it's not just the translators. It's like there's a lot of things going on. You have the translators. You have people doing lettering in the manga sphere. You have people editing and proofreading on the anime and manga sphere. You also have, on the anime sphere, we have to get into other languages and dub it. So you have localizers on that sphere on doing it into our own languages and stuff like that. So many things can happen at many points of the line and stuff like that. And they're trying their best to bring the Japanese original to our ears in our language and stuff like that. And there's a lot more moving parts than we think. And sometimes people, as he said, they said, blame the translator, right? And that's not always the case. But sometimes it's hard to feel sorry for some people sometimes, and we've seen it again and again. Remember, Seven Seas had its many issues on the light novel front with... what was it? Classroom
of the Elite.
Elite, and then Mushoku
Tensei, yes.
Now, that one was interesting where...
It's even happened in the Danmei scene, too.
Yeah, they had talked about it in regards to it may not have been the translators in that front where there were missing parts to those light novels and stuff like that. It could have been in the editing or proofreading thing, so you never know. But a lot of people are keeping their eyeballs, and there are people that have, as he said, more people are learning Japanese. Your mileage may vary on how much they understand, but it's like, wait, something feels off and stuff like that. So more people are more apt to, I don't want to say call out, but question certain things.
No, they're calling out.
And then
they're calling out.
And the other one,
it's on Twitter. That's all you do on Twitter is calling out things.
It fueled the fire, as he say. And the other one that Seven Seas, remember, it was, I think I turned my childhood friend into a girl, and that was a big one for Seven Seas, where it was a cross-dressing boy. And I'm sorry to say this, Amy, I know you've probably heard this one, but the translator, and this one it was the translator, basically said they wanted to make the character trans. And unfortunately, that's not how the original was. At those, like, maybe the character would become trans later on and stuff like that, but that wasn't the author's intention. And even the author said that and said, okay, you know what, you got to tweet to like the, I guess, publisher account, but that they actually had to go destroy the books.
So the manga found out and had to make a statement, is what you're saying?
Yes, and also they had to take the books and retranslate it all fresh and stuff like that. But the original translator, just for whatever reason, like, it's nice, as you said, Amy, it's nice to be pro-trans and all that other stuff, but we talk about using the right pronouns, right? And this was one of those things where it's like, the mangaka was saying they wanted to use the he, you know what I mean? It's a cross-dressing boy. But they, for whatever reason, wanted to use trans pronouns. It's like, why are you doing that? It's like, at this point, it isn't appropriate. And so that added fuel to it, the fire. And also, the bad actors get more fuel. And that's the thing that really disappoints me and stuff like that in that front. You know what I mean?
And I think that this is like a danger to both human and computer translations, because if you have a computer automatically doing this or using algorithms, then the automatic translation could end up being a slur, right? Because a lot of, because Japan is very slow to adapt, so a lot of their terminology for queer people are just slurs. Like, they don't have native words. Like there is no Japanese native word for transgender. Like the Japanese word for it is like, you know, katakana transgender. Like, you know, it's just katakana. And the only alternatives are, you know, equivalent of, you know, effeminate man essentially, or, and they don't even start about like, you know, trans men. Like there's, like again, transgender using katakana is the only word they have for it, because aside from that, they would just, there's other, and this was part of the panel today too, there's, it's a different culture, it's a different system, and you know it's frustrating because a lot of this, you know, didn't used to be a problem. Like with Princess Jellyfish, I forget you know, the character's name, but like there was no question that he was just, you know, not just, but he was a cross-dresser. Or but then you say, okay, is it more akin to drag? Because no one, because I guess, you know, there's moments where, you know, that character in that feminine persona, other characters don't know that his identity is what it is. And he doesn't go out of his way to hide it, but he doesn't go out of his way to make it a secret either. But these sorts of things are, you know, you have bad actors in the translation thing where people are, I don't want to say bad actors, but, you know, good intentions maybe, but flawed, where, you know, just ask the original author, like, you know, first. Like, that seems like it would cover a lot of that, but not only ask the original author, make sure it is a queer Japanese person who is asking, because, you know, how much of that bias would, you know, because, you know, if a cishet, say, transphobic person goes to the, and, you know, that person might be an excellent translator, goes to the Japanese person and says, you didn't really mean to make them trans, did you? And they're like, oh, I guess not, you know, there's no Japanese word for that. Versus if there's a Japanese queer person, it's like, okay, what word did you say? Let's find the best English word for that. And, you know, a computer program isn't going to do that. Someone who is, you know, in the case of the book you mentioned, you know, you have the opposite situation, and then a transphobic, you need that cultural bridge, or else, you know, this is going to happen.
And then it's interesting when we talk about translation, stuff like that, is you need that communication open, as you said, between the creator and the translator, or even like the team helping out. And that can really help. And that's not always the case. Like the one I think where it was interesting, I'm thinking of J Novel and Ascendance of a Bookworm, and Quaff, who translates the manga and the light novels. God bless his heart. They're almost at the end, and it's a ridiculous number of light novels. But he's had an inside source to Mia Kazuki, who is the creator of Bookworm. And it's like there's so many things like foreshadowing and all that. But then sometimes there are things where they'll describe the main character, Mine, or Rosa Mine. And it's like they say she's like chaotic, this thing of chaos. And so he's trying to think of a way to say it that the Japanese are saying it. And he used a term that wasn't really in the Japanese, but describes what they were describing. And the fans like came and rallied behind it. And they said, we've made it our own, so to speak, in the West. And they call her a gremlin. Basically, she's a gremlin. She's causing all this chaos. It's like, what are you doing, you little gremlin? You're just causing all this. And it wasn't exactly explicitly there in the Japanese, but it brings forth the what they were trying to bring in. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to remember. And sometimes, yes, we want literal, but we can only do so literal, even when we're doing it with the subs, with the Japanese language, and not localizing. And like, if we want to be a little creative, then maybe we can put that in the localization when we do dubs and that on the anime side and stuff like that.
It's funny because like in Japan, when I was teaching there for, you know, they have the different celebrations and I guess festivals. A lot of people, especially when they're teaching younger kids, they want everything to be in English. So like they will translate Oni into ogre. Because they figure, oh, this is the closest thing. And, you know, it's interesting. Do we always go with what the closest thing is? Do we go with what's marketable? Like, I think the best example for that is like my lesbian experiences with loneliness. That author has gone on the record, it's like, yeah, I don't really identify with the word lesbian. But, you know, that identity, it resonates with people. It probably communicates what the book is about to an English-speaking audience better than a direct translation would, and it would reach the members of the audience that she probably would want to attract or read the book. So yeah, it's a complicated thing, which is why it's one of the many things I don't think AI should have exclusive domain over.
It kind of comes back to what Matt Alt has said about what's the perfect way to translate a Japanese word. It's when you can't or you don't, and people understand
Sushi,
anyway.
Ramen, or not
And
ramen,
that's the thing too, is that, and I know Justin Savakis had made mention of this in regards to Anime Ego, since he bought it and stuff like that, that they don't need the books that Robert, you know, I mean, he put tomes explaining stuff for Yurtse Yatsura and stuff that. And the joke about they had ramen, and in the 90s they're explaining, oh, ramen's just a noodle soup. It's like, you don't have to do that anymore. We've kind of progressed. So a lot of things that needed translation notes, we don't need as much anymore.
I get a couple of minutes to just kind of do something at the other end.
Thank. Okay.
Do want to get up.
But the other thing that's interesting when we talk about, remember I had brought up the one story, and that was Ancient Magus Bride. And so that kind of set off a interesting discussion, I think, the end of last year, 2023, to the beginning of 2024. And it was because Ancient Magus Bride, the publisher in Japan and stuff like that, Seven Seas does publish it here in North America and stuff like that. They do their own translation of that, but they're doing a simulpub, and it's the Japanese side doing it. And basically, they're using Mantra's AI-assisted AI.
That was baffling to me when I saw that news.
And people basically were on it, but I have to say it's a lot better than some of the other AI stuff we've seen compared to Rising Hero with lettering outside the boxes and all that stuff. But they talked about using this system, saying combining, this is their statement from the publisher, Ancient Magus Bride. They said, the Mantra AI-assisted translation system combines their unique machine translation technology with editing and proofreading by professional translators. The Post also stated the manga is continuously suffering damages from online and illegal English translations. Adding initiatives like this one, we are now undertaking to have been proven effective to reduce piracy damage. And they said Shueisha has demonstrated a precedent, I guess, with their Shonen Jump apps and stuff like that. Now, I think the thing is they may have been better, but your mileage may vary. And they mentioned Mantra. And Mantra was one of the ones Matt Alt had mentioned in there, because they had gathered 250 million yen in funding. And then the other one is Orange. And Orange has gotten, they said, 3 billion yen, which is 19 million US dollars of seed money that they're trying to then collect, I guess, and translate all this stuff through just AI itself, which is even more mind-boggling. It's not even going to have professionals overseeing it. So it's like, they could be spitting out garbage. And then it comes back to the thing Matt Alt had said, maybe curation is a thing we forget about, because there has been tons and tons of manga and anime. And on the manga side, there was tons more left untranslated. So maybe we've been, for the better, curated and gotten a lot of the best stuff. And maybe there are still some hidden gems out there, but even with AI, we're just going to go into mediocrity and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
He used I think this was the line. Let me see if I can find. Westerners currently enjoy the cream of the crop. Will flooding the market with the unsold leftovers satisfy or nauseate?
Yep.
People will read the mediocrity if they don't have to pay for it.
But will you do that if your lettering is just all wacky and everything's outside the boxes and stuff like that? Because people forget that. You forget about until you see it and it stares you right in the face. And that's what I think some of them forget about.
I just think the people, the vocal minority that wants AI translations to take over, they don't care. They just want to read and be done with it. And that's sad.
That vocal minority may not be willing to invest in it either.
no,
How much are they willing
trying
to?
to argue against that vocal minority is like arguing against the wall behind us.
Well, I will tell you this, Kevin. Some of these people, well, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, Elon Musk's house
call
or
it
hut
Twitter.
or whatever, I don't know what it is. But some of them are on social media. And I think Matt Alt had mentioned in here, it's like, and it's been mentioned in a few other places, social media, it's that instant click, that instant gratification. And it's on both sides where it feels they're going for the jugular and stuff like that. And they're saying, hey, this is what we're talking about. And it's like, hey, you're this or that. And just putting on a word that used to mean something and have meaning, and now it has no meaning, even bad words and connotations.
There's still people who complain that like they don't literally use the word nakama in the English version of One Piece. It's like, oh, God.
Well, yeah, that one.
For something like nakama, it's tricky because it's not a noun, right? Or it's not a solid physical noun. Like something like, I guess karaoke isn't either, but well, it sort of is. It's a physical place. It's a box, but like a concept like that is weird to just leave untranslated. I am significantly against AI. However, as was said, if the options are, AI is used as an assist to ensure that obscure Japanese artists get paid, or piracy happens and there's no option for them being paid, then I kind of want artists to be paid. So it's a difficult thing for me. And I mean, piracy has led to popularity and things being published before. Has Billy Bat been picked up yet?
No.
Okay, never mind.
There's reasons. There's reasons unknown to us why Billy Bat is still not out yet.
Maybe the JFK and 9/11 and Michael Jackson stuff.
Wouldn't be surprised. That's why we don't have the We Are the Beatles manga.
That's why the good soundtrack of Sonic 3 is stuck in
And for the
limbo.
longest time, Saint Youngman was not licensed either because the author was scared that people would take the whole Jesus and Buddha living together thing wrong.
So anyways, these edge cases aside, it's difficult because, I am very firmly support the artists, and I'm also very against AI for a lot of art, at least AI for artistic purposes, for those art-related reasons.
By themselves.
Yeah.
As I said, you said as an assist.
Yeah, if the assist happens and it leads to obscure and potentially more diverse in sense of thoughts and sense of backgrounds and sense of topics, manga gets picked up, or not picked up, but given exposure to readers around the world, and again, those authors and artists get money. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but
and that's the thing Matt also said, that he has used different tech and used ChatGPT as it's good as an assist, but we have to have the discussion now to say, hey, it's one thing, but if you just release it to the wolves and stuff like that, it's a totally different story. It's good to help the translators and stuff like that as another tool in the toolbox, and to help out the team, because as he said, it's a team. It's you have proofreaders, editors, letterers, and sometimes artists and stuff like that, because there may need to be a retouch and stuff like that. And AI isn't an all-in-one solution. And we've also seen it again. Remember, I had talked about Yazuki Family's 4 Sons and stuff like that. And that was Crunchyroll was given a translation probably by the Japanese publisher. And that first episode was just nonsensical. And they basically had to pull it in the fall and then bring up a new translation. And then they had the human touch from episode 2 on. And it just shows you people will see it and stuff like that. It just makes no sense. And some of it they can say, okay, we're trying to fight against piracy and all that stuff. We can understand that. But you know what? There's got to be a better way and stuff.
But at what cost, too?
Yeah.
Because we all know in the end, these companies want to license all this stuff and use AI because the real reason is they don't want to pay translators to do it. They want more of the profit for themselves.
Yeah, like that would be the ideal thing, is taking all these like fan translators and paying them, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. Like
we saw how Crunchyroll worked with
there's coming back. It's almost coming back to the old dollar bill.
It happens,
argument, right?
but it's rare. It's like how like some of those, I think some of the Date.io translators back, like who did all the Naruto fan subs, some of them did go pro when Crunchyroll went legal, for example.
And set up their own thing and stuff. Live Evil, they set their own thing and basically became a part of Crunchyroll.
Or when people translate visual novels, sometimes when they actually get licensed, the company will actually bring that team on board. It's happened before.
The problem is also, it was the Tezuka problem, I know, with the translators when they went at the start of Crunchyroll, that they said, oh, these are your fees and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, these are what we're going to pay you guys and stuff like that. And it was a lower amount and stuff like that. They didn't see the fuller picture, the value.
Because I sometimes see manga translators needing to battle against these people who wish that, oh, I wish your job is not going to exist in 5 years because AI is going to get better by then. It's like, oh God, like.
Well, but and this is the upshot of where Matt Alt went with his words, and these are, and I'll probably end paraphrasing him, and it's on two things. One, we're going to work. Yeah, we're going to, as nice as it is, as you want to improve your AI technology, and we can debate whether or not we'll get there. But let's debate. But say they do. Say that AI is perfect in the translation. And in the way he ended up putting it, I cannot imagine AI replacing any human in the process. And should an AI emerge that can, we are going to have a lot bigger problems on our hands than localizing manga, which in not so many words is a Skynet reference.
Because in the end, like, translation is an art. That's why when you buy like a Murakami book, the translator's name's on the front cover as well.
Well,
because in a way, like, it kind of becomes the words of the translator in a way, if you think about it.
As long as they're giving the care. And then the last point, and then we'll have a word from our sponsors. And once again, to paraphrase what Matt Alt wrote, if publishers were willing to invest 19-20 million US dollars into AI, how much can you, wouldn't it just help a little bit to pay human translators that much?
It'd be great.
Yeah, it's like the question of, if you have this money, it's like, and we still want to have good curation, it would make more sense to go away from AI and find the best people for the job and do it at a respectable pace. You know what I mean?
But
and even then, you're still going to have debate and stuff like that, whether it's translating the material into English or whether it's on the anime side localizing it into the local language for an English dub or something like that. And even that is fraught. And everyone seems to put it all together when it's not quite the same, right? For all areas.
And we're all for the healthy debate. It's just that these days, it's not typically healthy.
Well, you probably heard this week about the big thing in that too is Scarlett Johansson and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
And it just boggles the mind and stuff.
Wait, what happened to ScarJo?
Because basically, I forget which tech bro it was, but basically
ChatGPT, I believe it is ChatGPT.
But it was ChatGPT. Oh my God, it was. Anyway, they basically want to use the voice she used in Her when she was playing the voice of the AI with Joaquin Phoenix, and use the voice she used there for ChatGPT or
not
whatever.
Ghost in the Shell. Okay.
Yep. And basically, she's like, nah, not going to do that. And then they've started to let it out, like, I guess, a beta or something like that. And the voice of the AI sounds eerily similar, basically, to her voice. And people said that.
And just tweeted out the word her, like, just as a tweet. Just
and
like,
then she went back to her again to say, oh, would you like to? And she's like, what the heck? And so now she's retained legal counsel and says, what are you doing? And has released a statement. It is the most.
And they've replied with like, we just hired a person, a completely different, voice actress, and it's a coincidence, despite the fact that
we haven't been going through all your career and just it's like it is baffling. To say the least.
I've
and
heard
it's the scariest idea that
I've heard that, this is a thing that a lot of actors have needed to worry about in recent years.
And that's what they're talking about on
Well,
the
that was-
voice actor
Yeah.
front and stuff
Well,
like that.
And that was probably some of the basis of the actor strike last year.
And
Yes.
some of it, as they said, it can be helpful. It can help us to maybe not come into the studio again and again to do certain lines and stuff like that, small retakes. But you just can't take and do it ad nauseum. You know what I mean?
Anyway, there's
More discussions to be had.
always,
Indeed.
always. As I said, and now a word from our sponsor. You want to? Norm has been in the room sitting in the entire time. We got to get a chair for him. Okay. Let's bring Norm onto the microphone.
As quick as you wanted if I can.
How long do you want to stick around, Norm?
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure they can do it.
Yeah, Norm all this time has been checking up on all the other stuff as the programming continues this evening. Well, this is part of what you do here. Norm McEvoy joins us for his annual.
The good thing is we had the
Visit.
wall pullback, Neil Danilin and Mike Toole, and you don't have to do much of those guys. My
Yeah.
tech crew takes care of them, so just making sure they did their switch over good.
Yeah, how are we doing tonight? How are we doing tonight? Us in here.
Well, gee, Anime North, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Kind of,
it's always
kind of.
nice to have you to visit. First of all, do you have a thought on just what we've talked about in the last little bit?
Oh, yeah, well, you said if manga's your worst problem, I think there's a lot worse things with AI. I've seen robotics pretty much destroy workforces. So, the AI, that can be a real problematic thing. It's like not just translators. What else is it going to do away with? So we gotta get a handle on that, because next thing you know, guess who's going to be replacing us?
Well, as I said, maybe one of those two companies could be the next Skynet. Okay, so let's go back to how everything's going on here on the compound, because I have a couple things, and these are compliments actually.
Well, they're going pretty good so far.
Yes.
And I'll try to answer you like why we're where we are now. So let's go.
Okay. Well, yeah. Sheridan's now out of play, so everything is now centered on this side of the 27.
That was kind of in the work for years, and we decided, to make things easier. I mean, at first Sheridan, we went going down there. They made us a good offer, and that was going back, God.
I want to say 20 years, because remember
Close.
when we first went to Constellation, then we were at
the
TCC
Regal.
South, and we were at, it was Renaissance, right? Before we
Renaissance,
shared it.
20
And that was for 1 year, and then we finally were in Doubletree and South and stuff like
Yeah.
that the year after.
I think it was a couple of years after that, Sheridan got us back. We said, okay, we'll put gaming down there. We'll put, what else? Yowie North. And turned out that
Yowie Yuri, yep.
Yowie and, I've always known him as Yowie, but I get the picture. Yowie and gaming eventually ended up getting along well together. I guess it's like those people in the hall over there. And turned out, we like that.
It was interesting, because I remember they were with the video rooms at one point and stuff like that. They were like in I want to say the London room. It was
New
kind of,
York.
and you could go around, and that way they could go through the hallway and you could check and say, oh, you can come along and stuff like that for yelling that. And they were always vocal and fun.
Well, that's all right, that was fun. A lot of energy, a lot of, very energetic. But we moved them down to Sheridan, and they were doing well down there. But without getting into too many details, it was time to leave Sheridan. It was time to move up. This last year, we had exchanged with Otakon. When it comes to numbers, we're almost just about the same size.
Capo's at, I heard, roughly 36 this year. That's the numbers I've heard.
I think we've been able to sell a little more because we moved to the North Building.
Fully.
Yeah, but I say Otakon's always had at one time it was the number 2 convention on the continent. They were thinking they were going to overtake Anime Expo. But we went to their where they hold theirs, and it's this big, beautiful center in downtown Washington. And oh my God, I walk in there, I almost feel ashamed to walk in there. And you know, it's where they hold national conventions, political party conventions. They say, yeah, we got to be more like this. So basically, one of the mottos is, hey, we're a big con now. It's time to put on your adult pants or your adult clothes now and stop being all over the place and fitting yourself into little things. So now we're up in the north, we got the north building. It took a few years.
In full now, yeah. Mm-hmm. And moving the registration operations. And obviously you're here, like, aside from people getting, it sounds like, aside from people getting used to having it there, period, and sometimes maybe not knowing initially it's there, it sounds like the feedback's been good.
Well, that wasn't originally where we were planning to have it, but that's where we have to have it. And I'm actually thinking he probably did us a favor without meaning to. I've been over there to drop off stuff. I mean, I looked around and said, yeah, this is a pretty good setup they got here. So.
Yeah, because I went around and it was nice. It's a good, happy accent to have when those things happen, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the game shows is over there now, and I think that's a good spot for it. Gaming has Hall Eye, and I think they're doing good there. Retro had to move to here for various, because for the flow where they originally had the retro room, no, that won't work here. That's blocking off. So, and frankly, the one drawback to the TCC, you can't be there after midnight. Or you better start getting out before midnight. It's like Cinderella under carrots. You're there too long, you're going to turn into pumpkins, and they're going to throw you out. So, whereas here they can be as long as they want. So, it happened that way.
And on that note, where it's now after midnight here,
we can run all night. We can do it as long as we want. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, for us, who knows how much longer we can go. But that's stuff that's already, like, it does feel nicer to, I never went to the Sheridan side. I never had to I gave myself the time to do so. So maybe getting a chance to see some of that program, some of the stuff that happened there.
It's one of those.
It's just a glimpse.
Yeah. It was time. It was time to move up, to make the move. You want to be a big con, then start acting like a big convention, big show. And
just another step.
There's another step, and I think it's been one we've been planning for years. It's just getting on the TCC's good nature. I hear you talking about the parking. Yeah, it's unfortunately, you live in Toronto. The only towns I can think that's worse than Toronto for parking is New York or Chicago or Boston. I mean, holy Christ! But you get the picture. And we're up here in the northern end where the west end, yes.
Yep, and there's only so much you can do with transit and stuff like that. But you just got to pack your patience and plan. That's all you can do some days.
I put that more on the city, not on you guys.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember
for not making that the structure.
I remember dating myself. I remember as a kid, my father used to love to drive up here. And look at the airport. You still see people doing that, standing by the fence and watching the planes come in. He used to love to do that. I remember a lot of these places, were only being built. And actually, they used to have the big, what was the name of it? Where they built the Avro Arrow. That used, the Douglas factory here. But I remember watching a lot of this stuff being filled in. So that's the way the city developed.
And that was the interesting thing too, is every time I come, and I saw it again this weekend, is when you're on this side, you see the planes coming to land and stuff like that. And I must have saw on 10 today how close they come to the Delta and to the hydro wires. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm glad I'm not in that pilot seat, because it's incredible how close they come to the ground when they're coming in for landing and stuff like that. It's a marvel when you're like, oh, wow, that's actually happening.
And another thing, too, is if you're going to do anything like a light display or a fireworks display, you really got to watch. And they don't really like you doing that before a certain time when the planes stop coming in. Same as you're not allowed drones around here No drones.
Well, we are close.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
You're in that zone where
The airport.
And if you get somebody smart ass wants to fly a drone and take pictures, you probably get the police or the RCMP or somebody, CISA's even, giving you a visit saying, hey, don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here. I think it's starting, this is the first year we've been in the rest of it. You're talking about with the parking. We haven't had this much fun with parking since the Tories had their last convention here during us.
I was thinking it's like with all we've taken and stuff like that, I don't think we're going to have another convention doing like a side B with us ever again, as they say. You know what I mean?
I think it's a new owner. It's the son, and he's a little, not as, he's a little easier to deal with.
There's been a change in the ownership of TCC.
Well, the son's taken over.
Oh, so it's been passed along.
And he's got more other interests.
And probably more, and maybe thankfully for the convention, a little bit more sense about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so last thing, when it comes logistically to the convention, and as I said, this is a real compliment. My friend and I, we went for lunch at Pure and Simple beside Burger King across the street earlier, and we were having a nice conversation. We've always talked over the years how much this convention means to this neighborhood, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this has become this is almost Black Weekend for a lot of this area, I think. But
I'll tell you right now, though, the businesses, Ginkgo's, this is their best weekend. Swiss Shell and all the restaurants around, we give them more, and we go around and talk with them. And
this is what I wanted to bring up.
I saw Swiss Chalet sign.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the Swiss Chalet sign.
The anime special.
Is there any talk about? Does anyone else know about any anime-specific menus, or at least menus that geared towards anime?
Yeah, but I want to give a shout out to one of your graphics, Ken Campbell with the game show. He's the one that goes around and puts his work, Big Ken. So
yeah, he did, and that's what that leads me to what the guys at the restaurant told us. They said this week or over the last couple of weeks, they did get the heads up that this was happening. Mm-hmm. So they were well prepared, and they were able to lean on the experience of Burger King from last year, because this was Pure and Simple's first AN.
By the way, this Harvey's doesn't do the free. They've stopped long since.
That's a decades-long gag here.
Oh yeah,
right.
Mike seems to think that maybe that last one we might have killed the deal in Canada.
I think Anime North, we killed Harvey's Free Burger Day. Yes.
Oh,
I call that. I would call that a badge of honor, dude. But they mentioned that, and it reminded me of how much this convention means to this area.
And I'm glad it does. It's again, we've grown so much over the years. We attract not just the goers, people around. We're bringing business here. All the vendors, notice all those food trucks that are lined up outside. The hotels are all doing good. I mean,
Yeah, that was a hell of a carnival. My friend was joking. Looks more like a matsuri out there now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
so.
I'm just amazed that having watched this thing go. We first started way back. It is your proverbial. Oh, from little acorns come big trees. Well, yeah, and that's just
that's
how
where we
it
are
is.
now.
What?
Then we're getting, this is where we sit right now.
And it's the thing too, Mike, which is interesting. We talk about Otakon and some of the other cons. It's kind of interesting that we have that outdoor space to have those things that some other cons don't. Like they can park the cars filled, covered in otaku culture. You have the raves and stuff like that. You have people out there dancing and doing stuff like that, and that they're able to do that. And a lot of the time you can't do that. You don't have the space, right?
Depends where you are. That's why being up at the airport, people say, oh, why didn't you go to the MT Metro Convention Center? Well, we couldn't do what we do here down there. Plus, they don't have the open space. So, yeah.
Even with Anime North growing, it still hasn't lost its heart. Like, there's still people eating on the grass or in the hallways of the hotels, and just like taking photos like really casually.
But it just seems like there's a lot of fun. People are just enjoying that, doing it that way.
they say, "Oh, you should be more professional." We don't want to be professional. I don't want to get paid for this. I spent over 40 years getting paid to do stuff in the steel mill, and God, well, I won't say, getting treated like, well, you can guess. And no, I do this for fun. If you start doing it for pay, they start expecting certain things out of you. So, and no, we like it that way.
Not a lot of other conventions would have how to cook Pokemon as a panel or the anime strongest trees, right? Like there's such like a fun and heart to it.
That one you're talking about the history, or one that was making one of those panels. Who was on that panel? I may be able to guess. There's one you really liked. That was you said it was fun and entertained you.
Oh yeah, that was the 2 years ago was the anime strongest trees. And then this year was Anime X Law. There were two PhD. Okay,
Dr. Dave wasn't on any.
No, I don't think so. But he was mentioned.
And Dr.
He
Dave
was mentioned.
Dr. Dave one. Oh, and Fingers is back.
Oh,
Fingers made it back.
So, around.
We have seen Fingers.
And Fingers is the longtime panel coordinator. So what's he up to now? What will be?
He's helping them out.
So he's still
there helping. He's just not he's helping them out, and he's Dr. Dave's sidekick, you know. So he's like, no, well, they just hang out together. I don't know.
Okay, well, a couple of other things before you go. So this is the first Anime North after the passing of Akira Toriyama. And there have been numerous tributes in the panels for him this weekend.
There have been panels.
Give me a thought. Give me your thought on his death and the panels.
Just like last year, I said, Matsumoto, my generation. He's one of the reasons for the people who came after me. Dragon Ball, and they go nuts for it. I mean, even that's the reason why a lot of youth are here, the younger folks, and. I was amazed Dragon Ball got on TV in North America in the first place because at the time they were so tight about what they would allow. The man was a marvel. He's very inventive. His most famous one was Dragon Ball, which went from a takeoff on the Monkey King to Superman because he's a huge fan of both. He also known for other ones like Dr. Slump. And if there's somebody as strong as Goku, it's little. I don't know about Goku, but he sure as hell kicked Vegeta's butt one time. So, Dragon Quest, Blue Dragon, others. Was he? Now I don't know. Was he a one-trick pony? I don't know. Did he just let Dragon Ball go on too long? Except people demanded it, and he delivered. But when it was at his best, my God, you couldn't top it. And he went too young at age 67.
The people who are handling the tributes are the right people to be doing it.
Well, I've been showing some of the stuff that tomorrow morning I'll be showing a selection of his not so well known work, some of the adaptations of his one shot manga and that. So, and Sunday morning I've even shown Dragon Ball stuff. I've shown Dr. Slump stuff. We've had lots of panels and tributes. It's when you look at the names who are the names, he's up there. I don't want to use the term Mount Rushmore, but we're going to have a pantheon. He's on there. I think he rates up there with names like Tezuka, Matsumoto, Go Nagai, and he's up there with them. So while I'm at it. Another name I have to mention, if last year, if I go in the world of Japanese puroresu.
I know you're a huge fan, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, this man was maybe the most popular, if not one of the most famous of the foreign wrestlers that went in Japan. Their favorite crazy gaijin, a man named Terry Funk, former NWA champion, but for some reason, the Japanese loved him. They just went nuts for this guy. If you don't know what he looks like, well, you ever seen Roadhouse? He was an actor too. You ever seen Roadhouse? He's that guy that scared the crap out of Patrick Swayze. Patrick's got to look at his face that, dear God, I hope he knows he's acting. He was certainly one of Giant Baba's favorites, and yes, he inspired, he was a major part of Kinnikuman. He inspired one of Kinnikuman's sidekick and tag team partner, Terry Man. Seriously.
Yeah, you did tell me this story last night.
Terry Man. And you look at, that's how he used to look many years ago. And I'll tell you the story if you want to hear it.
We got a minute.
But
we got a few minutes.
He did wrestle in the WWE, and he wrestled for everybody, not just old Japan. He wrestled everywhere. But yeah, he came up in WWE for a couple of years and had a memorable feud with Junkyard Dog and others. And he was this crazy Texan that came out with chaps and a hat and a branding iron. It's like, my God. And he said, make crowd like, here I am, middle-aged and crazy. Tougher than shoe leather, meaner than a rattlesnake. And he had that growl to his voice. And you took one look at this guy, you knew this was a guy that you did not want to get on the bad side of. Well, there I was, and this is going back almost 40 years, at the outside the Maple Leaf Gardens, back, when the cards were proper. And he basically had a match where, I think he got counted out because Junkyard Dog threw him over to the top and he went through a wooden table. Terry did crazy stuff like that. And he was, after a career, he was sore and hurting and that. And just I won't say mean, miserable mood. He's outside on Church Street waiting for a taxi with his manager, Jimmy Hart. And these kids, they're calling him names. They're throwing stuff at him, like pop can lands near him, and he's just ignoring it because he's a pro. And he's also this guy's not scared of anybody. When Hell's Angels came up, he did just headbutted him down. He was just one, couldn't give a rat's ass if a bunch of kids, and he's ignoring them. Then the kids, what do they do to really get him going? One who says, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" Well, I was standing a few feet from him. He turns around, and it's like, you ever seen a bear come out of the woods? Looking loaded for bear. Yes. That's what he looked like. He looked like coming out loaded for bear, and he's glaring at these kids. And I swear, those little smartasses started backing up, and they're like, holy crap. It's like, you threw shit at a bear, and now the bear suddenly, there ain't no bars between you and it. Well, then the police came along and chased them away, and I watched them shaking hands with them afterwards, but I heard his words, and do you mind if I use the exact words?
Go for it.
Yeah, them fucking little bastards. They throw shit at me. They call me fucking names. Then they got the nerve to ask for my fucking autograph. And that's exactly what he sounded like. It's like, I'm listening to this, I'm going, holy crap, buddy. You had a saying. I don't know. I don't care if you believe wrestling's real, but I care if you believe I'm for real. Well, I believed he was for real. And the best part at the Comic-Con, I met Tito Santana, who knew him quite well and trained under him. I related that story to Tito. Tito's eyes went wide. He said, oh, man, no, you don't want to mess with that guy. And that's from somebody who knew him quite well. So, but again, he rates up there people like him, Stan Hansen, Andre the Giant, Fred Blassie and the Destroyer, and all these men that went to Japan and became legends in their own right, and it's just the way, the guy put himself through hell just to entertain us, and he say, man, oh man, you want to picture this is what a man looks like? That was Terry Funk. And God rest in peace, Terry, but I think he's up to, wherever he is, I think he's on the Great White Snake Way, the Great Snake Way with Toriyama. They're looking for Dusty Rhodes, so. And I'll leave you to that. Unfortunately, that's part of getting old. A lot of your favorites.
Well, yeah. And I always note this because I know in recent years we've been doing tributes to those who aren't with us. I guess on this last note, I did see the front of the cover.
Yes.
So tell me about these guys.
Which one? Some of them I know, some of them I don't.
Who did you know? Patty Vickers, Nick
Patty
Bowman.
Vickers, God love her. Yeah, I knew. She came from the old fandom. She was from the old media sci-fi fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Came over to give us a hand with the accounting and that, so God love her.
Nick Bowman?
Not so much.
Michael Vollmer.
No, but I think there's a Ron Hopp's on there.
Ron Hopp is mentioned.
Yeah,
yes,
Ron
he's
Hopp.
the last
Ron
name.
was, God love him. We all have our burdens to bear, but God love him, you know. He was not in good health. He had diabetes, you know. He was part of our gaming for years and years and years, you know, so. Yeah, so.
I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
And you know, sadly, it's become a bit of a thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But maybe, and the tribute is always an appropriate word. Dedicated to the memory of staff and community members who made Anime North what it is today.
Yeah, well, it was, you know, it is community member. We are a community. We do, you know, where we have a shared common. We may not be all anime fans, but we are a community. We all have an interest in this, and yeah, that's one of the things with fandom. You know, you may not be agreeing on everything, but you know, you're there in it together.
But you know what I say about fandom, about our fandom. I think we have more in common than we don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just sad that that's our focus these days. Maybe society as a whole too.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me lighten this up just a little bit before we go tonight. Do you want to do the bullets just quick? Do a round of items in brief, just quickly, just quick headlines that caught our attention.
Okay, if you want, you can do something quick.
Yeah, I've got a few minutes because Kevin's gone missing. I need somebody to stay on the fourth mic for a couple more minutes.
I'll help. Okay.
Okay, well, nobody's. I know if Kevin was here, he'd probably slam Miku Fest. Big TV. You heard about that? They didn't do the holograms this year. It came to Toronto a couple weeks ago, and yes, as the initial reports on this year's Miku Fest went, yeah, just a huge television screen instead of a projected hologram.
And how much you paying for tickets for this?
I don't know. I didn't have to pay.
Oh wow. Okay, but the original. Oh, you guys, but the original ones, I mean, we sometimes would show the film footage, and people are looking, wow, oh my God, that's great. That is fantastic. Is that what is that, a hologram? They couldn't believe that wasn't a real girl. Mm-hmm. And she had so much she had so much personality and everything, but on a little flat TV for, you know, you're paying.
I'm hoping it was 3D. I'm hoping it was 3D, but I guess not. So
well, it was not 3D. It was on a flat screen, and the first show was in Vancouver. So the Vancouver fans let us know, and it depended. Your mileage would vary depending where you were sitting, and some of them may have had to pay resellers to get in there too, right? So that adds insult to injury, since, as they said, it wasn't on the ticket that this was how they were presenting it, right? So when you're going to a Miku concert, right, you're thinking, I'm going to a Miku concert like we've seen before, right?
Well, yeah, and the vocalization, I mean, there's always been something about them where, like you said, people don't believe it's an animation.
Mm-hmm. So,
but this, you know, dear God, you know, to me, there's something shady about it.
Really shitty.
You know?
Especially when it has been established as a hologram concert for so long. Like, I saw it as a hologram, and it was great.
Yeah. I know.
As we said, we have the technology, right?
And I know Dave Watson's here, who does our karaoke, and he just put up his hand, wanted to mention something.
I just wanted to add a little bit there. Whenever I first saw the bit about that TV thing, I was just, holy shit, this isn't satire?
No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, this
actually happened.
This was real.
It wasn't an Onion article, huh?
Yeah. Well, imagine what's more fake then.
I think they may have just killed the town, as they say.
Okay, I'm going to bring up a rough name. Toru Furuya. You heard about him? You heard about what happened to him this week?
Who is he and what did he do?
Voice actor. name the roles. You name some of his key roles. He's the Japanese voice. Tuxedo Mask.
Okay.
Amaro
Ray. Kasuga Kyosuke. Now, what did he do?
Yeah.
Who wants to break this, me or you?
I think you should break it, Mike.
Gundam voice actor Toru Furuya admits to a 4-year affair with a fan. 30 years. His junior.
How old's he?
He's 70-something. I forgot the exact year. I forgot the exact age.
So he's just had an affair with a woman in their, 30s, 40s?
A fairly young fan. Yeah, it was a significant age difference.
No, but how old is she? Is he legal aged?
Oh, at the very least, yes.
Very legal, but there were some other accusations.
Yeah, so according to Anime News Network, admitted that he had been in a relationship with a female fan for 4.5 years until September. Said he'd become attracted to the fan that was supporting him earnestly and that he had contacted her to begin the affair. He also admitted that he had caused the woman to have an abortion. Apologized for that. Apologized for disappointing his fans, betraying their trust, sullying the characters that he has voiced. Concludes that he intends to spend the rest of his remaining life atoning for his mistakes and is prepared to accept any punishment. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he said that because they started almost immediately.
And yes, because he was supposed to be at MomoCon this weekend in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He was going to do a convention, a signing, panels, everything. And then basically, once this broke in midweek, I'm not sure he even got on the plane from Japan to go to Atlanta, because it sounds like they had the statement said, we're canceling the panel, we're canceling everything. Then they had an official statement that he does not align with our beliefs and so on and so forth, and that basically we are cutting ties professionally with this person and stuff like that, which is, it's definitely bad all around, but oh my goodness.
Well, the first part, he had an affair and she's...
But it was the second part that just kind of was like, oh my goodness.
The second part is like, yeah, buddy, you just...
And there's some other parts to that story. I think after hearing all this, I owe Koichi Yamadita an apology. Because we often joked about his multiple marriages, the voice of Spike Spiegel, because he's married multiple times, right? He's married to the first 2 times to fellow voice actors Kanai Mika and Rie Tanaka. So Rie Tanaka is the voice of Chi in Chobits.
Well, just the visual, a guy that old having an affair, yeah.
But this is something else. This is something else altogether. Yeah. Not necessarily legal, but certainly not right either. And oh my goodness.
At least it's not in Vince McMahon territory.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's distasteful, but it's not in that. Oh my God.
Nonetheless, people have to be held responsible. So let's see what else happens there. And finally, maybe just...
I think he messed up, but, it's like, remember when Hulk Hogan was caught on tape yesterday, and they're like, boy, you messed up. You had a lucrative thing going there, buddy, and you just messed it up. So...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One more. I'll go one more, because I want to give a quick shout-out as we end the night. Rachael Lillis, who was the English voice of Misty in Pokemon. Right?
And Jessie.
And probably a couple of other random characters.
Many
other anime dubs and that. Yeah.
Utena, the English voice of Utena. It had been revealed a couple weeks ago that she has been suffering from breast cancer.
Oh dear.
Since January, and has progressed enough that it had spread to her spine, and right now she can't walk. So there was a GoFundMe put up by her sister to in her support. We will put that in the links for this episode. But chances are, a lot of the people who care know and have donated. It has exceeded its goal, but something like this, more could be appreciated. I bring it up because I've told this story many times on this podcast. I've met Rachael Lillis. I think it was at the 1999, what is now Fan Expo. I moderated her Q&A along with Lisa Ortiz, the English voice of Nina Inverse, among others. And she was just a joy to hang around. those couple days. I know she returned to Fan Expo about a decade ago and charmed another generation of fans. And hearing this news, it's heartbreaking. It is tough to hear, to know that that the cancer has spread to her spine and has affected her this way. That cannot be a very good sign at all. And if I find that picture I have of her, I'll put that up.
Yeah.
I will put that up for everyone, just to make sure I'm telling the truth about meeting her in the past.
Well, my prayers, our prayers go out to, and it's like, my God. And I think everybody in this room, you've had some family member or another that's been affected by cancer, so I hope her the best and hope, it's rough, but
that's...
Yeah, and with the American health system the way it is, it's like...
Well, that's why the GoFundMe happened.
Oh, yeah.
But with Pokemon making the type of news it has over the last year, with the ending of Ash's journey.
Oh, yeah.
And, and many of the characters that we grew up with.
Finished this story.
Many, yeah.
Reading the tweet about the announcement, it was sort of heartwarming to see at least Veronica Taylor and I think a few other voice actors thank people for sharing and for contributing.
Eric Stewart, I think, was another one.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So there's the story there. Best wishes. We're certainly thinking of her, and I'll put up as I said, we'll put up the GoFundMe link. Remind me to contribute because I kept forgetting about it. I've been so preoccupied with my own Anime North prep, including this and the Noma no Ichi. But that's where we are on that.
Well, I heard you telling the story. When it comes to voice actors, the two we have right now, look how we got them. It's like, they're
like Shimizu-san is how old is she? She's in her 80s.
They're both in their 80s.
And then I think Mori's like just about to.
Yeah, so they look pretty spry and happy. I think they're happy in front of a crowd of people.
Oh, they appreciated it, and it's. I think they appreciated the fact most of the people who came out were too young to to have experienced their work, but the crowd knew who they were. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think they really appreciated that.
I'm glad to, once in a while get somebody like that, like once in a while. It's like, it's good. Hey, kids, learn something.
So they got to learn a lot of the history, and yes, the names of the characters people do recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, as you said, Mike, sometimes there are guests you only see once in a lifetime, and it kind of feels like that, right? Especially at that age.
Yeah, that's the sense I got. Funny enough, it must be noted, Toru Furuya, going back to Toru Furuya, there had been charges for his autograph, $100. I hope there were refunds. So we had that. I think, admittedly, yes, the word got around that was the case here with Shimizu and Mori, worth every penny. I'm very sure.
We're talking about, it's same as how much was Vic Mignogna charged on his autograph, and what's it worth now? You're talking about a fall from grace,
Yeah.
Again, is that a similar fall from grace, or not as bad, or what?
For you? Well,
because what do you have to do in Japan to get, with the
that?
With the way they're called, how tolerant their culture is and stuff.
I'm not so sure how high the bar is. We've talked about things that should have, but I'm not totally sure has. That's where we are now. Anyway. Always a pleasure, Norm.
Thank you very much, and hopefully, same time, same place
next year.
You're always welcome back.
Cool.
And I'll pass that on to Eileen, and she's up in her room right now.
We'll talk tomorrow.
Put a lot of work. Yep.
We'll talk tomorrow.
Yes.
There's a couple of nice little follow-ups from other things we were talked about earlier. So we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay then, Mike.
Enjoy the rest of the evening. Now Kevin gets to sit back in town. You know what? You missed the bullets, Kevin.
By the way,
Kevin. Kevin, before we go tonight, I want to give you one last thought. We did talk about Miku Fest. Do you have a thought on watching things on TV?
Kind of disappointed that they used an LED screen, but you know what? I didn't go see it this year, so who am I to complain? My friends still had a good time though, because it was still a good show in spite of that.
Now, Kevin, I was thinking about, because I had to lug a massive, tube TV and stuff like that earlier in the week. Mm-hmm. Would you be okay being charged more if you saw Miku on an old CRT tube TV and stuff like that and have a full-on retro experience?
Well, I wouldn't get a refund anyway, so I might as well go at that point.
It's like we can have the full retro gamer experience, you know what I mean?
And
before we went HD.
The other thing too was that I did go see Miku in 2016 anyway. Mm-hmm. So I also, because there were other concerts competing for my attention and I only had so much money I could justify spending, so I had to make a choice at the time to not go.
I guess we could say being powered by Crunchyroll took on a different meaning this tour, so to speak.
Yeah.
Buffering, the little buffering circle shows up.
It's just disappointing. It's disappointing, but it's if you went, you still had a great time because, it's a good show. It really is. And if you want Miku merch, you have to be there too.
And obviously, as we know, it's interactive, so I'm sure the fans were still hyped up, and you know what I mean? But it's still probably didn't have quite the same feel for some, you know what I mean?
One of my core memories of the 2016 show was that when the twins came on, finally, because they're one of the most popular, they're some of the most popular Vocaloids, and they came in, and then the two girls were just shrieking the whole time, and it
was the best song, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Remote Controller, the first one, it was the first time I heard it. It's this is the greatest song ever made.
And one of them sprouted wings on the screen, and they shrieked even louder, and I really had to do this.
Do you regret bringing up Miku again?
No, I just want to say, I guess I'm just a Luca fan. Sorry.
And I like Luca's my favorite too when you look at CGs. But anyway, also with Furuya quickly, I hate to say this, I think it could eventually blow over. It just needs time.
As I said, how high is that bar there?
Because you look at I always mix up the two people. Who was the guy that was married to Lisa? Or who's the guy that is married to Lisa, the singer? Tatsuhisa Suzuki, yes. That blew over at some point. He started getting roles again, if I'm not mistaken.
It took 5 months for John Tory to be back on the radio.
How do you cheat on Lisa? How do you cheat on one of the most popular singers in Japan at that time? Boggles my mind.
I dare not try to answer that.
Because I caught the tail end of the Furuya thing. But, okay, so... how do I phrase this?
This is my last thought tonight. Make it good, please.
So, I talked about how I was going to go... I talked about how I saw some of my favorite VTubers today in the virtual meet and greet. And some of them were subjected to a lot of lies, deceit, and being doxxed, and their friendships with other VTubers being broken by a man that owns a particular agency for streamers, both VTubers and, air quotes, flesh tubers, as they say. And I don't usually wish people ill will, and I still won't necessarily do that, but if all the allegations are true, then I won't feel any sympathy for that man.
And
this is a person who who owes years of back taxes to the IRS. This is a person who has let his LLC lapse in his home state or in the state where he registered the business in. This is a man who clout chases on 4chan of all places. Not to say that 4chan is a bad community, but you really want 4chan's clout? Like, of all things?
Out of all places.
And it's funny because it was 4chan who first found out about the LLC not really being valid or not being up to date because someone was bored. And then it eventually got reported to like certain VTubers who and reporters that report about VTuber news.
Last thought?
It boggles my mind how you hold an interview for someone with the express purpose of only getting their personal information so that you can dox them after the fact because you don't like them.
Wow.
Like, this screams of this screams of ego. It screams of like malice. It's ridiculous. And I really think that like what are you? You think you're in high school still? Like, you're a grown ass man.
But you know how childish things can really get sometimes.
Yeah, like, and to even break friendships of really close friends because you brought them upon your agency and spreading false rumors about them to those friends. And it's like, how can you do that to someone just because they didn't kiss your ass in the beginning?
Oh, that's where we are.
Yeah.
But
it's disgusting.
I'm sure we'll hear a follow.
It's fucking disgusting.
Soon enough.
It's fucking disgusting. Like, that's why, like, yep, I'll have no sympathy. If he really gets into trouble, I have no sympathy for that.
I'll leave it.
I'm just happy that the VTubers that I watch have persevered through all that.
Well, I mean, one of the more noteworthy ones was here, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we should finish up though. Okay, my last thought, because Anime North always has a festive feel to it. But as the years have gone for both Anime North and myself, it's sort of started to take on a melancholy feel to it. For many of the older attendees here, it isn't just a chance to celebrate anime. It isn't just a chance to meet up with friends or to celebrate our fandom. It's becoming more of a chance to meet up with people that, for whatever reason, you can only meet up with once a year here. It's amazing how many connections you can end up making here. But when it comes down to it, those connections are only as good as trying to keep up with them during the other 51 weeks of the year. My own takeaway as this year's Anime North reaches the home stretch is to actually contact those from the business cards I was so grateful to receive and trade, and text those whose numbers I just got, or text those who I only do so more than once a year. Because since I've seen many Anime Norths now, who knows how many more I'll get to see. My thanks as always to Norm and Eileen McEvoy, the program directors, social media head Chris Nabelski, office manager and graphics coordinator Kathy Shutt, and the rest of the Anime North staff. And I think I already know the answer to this question, because Norm kind of said it. As always, I hope we pass the audition this time around, and we'll be invited back next year. And if we are, we will be here again, without fail. But that's all we have for tonight. Once again, if you want to contact us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. We are hoping by the end of the year to be able to add more to our Twitch and YouTube presence as soon as I can figure out how to use my damn Stream Deck
I'll
and
believe it when
capture
I
card.
see it.
Well, can you help me? Thanks.
I'm not very knowledgeable on that either, but I can try and
I think
can try and learn with you.
Mo has been willing. Mo has been willing.
Okay.
He'll probably visit in the near future. As for the podcast side, please leave us a review if you can on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, and wherever you get your podcasts, because good reviews might help us in the algorithm.
Please rate us 5 stars. It really does help us out, and it makes us more visible on whatever platform you wish to listen to us through. And it's also cool to let us know that you're alive too, and that we do have listeners. But I know we do have some out there.
Both of you.
Not 2 people.
For now, we aim to try to provide something a few times a month. But in any event, please give us a subscribe, like, or follow on any of the platforms that we're on so you can be notified when I actually put up a streaming video. I guess my other takeaway from this week is to post something sooner rather than in July. Also, if you have a Spotify account, please check out the Anime Roundtable playlist for a list of music based on the things we've mentioned on this show. The opening theme song is entitled Fubuki Snowstorm by Piko Misaki, which is the title track of one of her albums. Check out more of her music at picoinfinity.com or on Facebook at Pico Zen Music. You could have listened to any anime podcast in the world, but decide to listen to one of the oldest ones, and we do appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Good night from Anime North in Toronto. Enjoy the rest of it. And then on the other side, join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.